Hello and welcome back to Born Clutch. My name is Harrison Hayes. I'm your host. This is Doug Hudson, former NFL quarterback, current Hall of Fame member at Nicholls State, where in 1986 he led the entire nation in all divisions in passing TDs. He's an avid golfer who's able to shoot under par and has a degree in psychology. Doug is one of the most interesting and top-of-the-line men I know. He's happily married to Ann Hudson and has 3 children. Doug and I are going to explore the mind today, as well as what it takes to play at the top level and how that can translate to other parts of your life. It's an honor to have him here, and if you have not liked and subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and do that. It would mean the world and helps us out a lot here. I'd like to start by asking you a simple question. What's your story?
Okay, my story. I was born in Memphis. Grew up in have a half sister, believe it or not. So I was, not really say this, but I was actually adopted by. I was a Bell, and then I was adopted by my mother's actually third marriage. So adopted as a Hudson. So. My real father left when I was 5 years old. They didn't get along. My mother remarried. When I was 7. Had my name changed. So, so that's kind of like family of origin stuff. Grew up in Memphis, and then my stepfather was in golf sales, and then he moved us to the Panhandle of Florida when I was in middle school. But that's kind of like family of origin stuff. Grew up in the Panhandle of Florida. Went to school in South Louisiana. I played football. Played all sports, baseball, football, you name it. Was pretty athletic as a kid. Got a scholarship to a little school in Louisiana called Nicholls State. I had a full ride to bigger schools, Alabama and Memphis State, but I had a quarterback coach out of Nicholls State by the name of Joe Clark who recruited me. And as a 16-year-old kid, he came up to me and said, "Hey, I think you can play in the NFL." And I believed him. I was like, really? This guy's telling me this. I don't, it was almost like, come on, I don't believe you. And then, hey, why not? I do believe you. And the guy was brilliant. And he was an older guy, had gray hair. He looked like he was, he was from California and just kind of different than any other coach I had talked to. And so I went with Joe Clark to Nicholls State. And this guy, Joe Clark, was a guru, right? He said, "We're going to throw the ball every down, and you're going to be a quarterback, and you're going to be my guy." And I'm like, okay. So he brings me to this little school in Louisiana in the middle of nowhere, man. And I'm like, gosh, where am I now? What have I done? And we're running this one back offense, and receivers are running all around. And he taught me this passing offense and really worked on my mechanics. And it was like, look here and throw here, Doug. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how easy is this? And so, so I wound up in Louisiana. I had a great experience there and met my wife there. And my senior year at Nicholls State, Joe left, the coach that recruited me left, and he went on to he went to the pros actually. Back then it was the Jacksonville Bulls, which was a alternate league to the NFL. And he was with a guy named Lindy Infante. And Infante was a really good coach, and they developed this passing offense. The option smash series. Anyway, if you're into football, it's really the spread offense. Now they call it the spread, but this was, 86. This is 30 plus years ago. Yeah. So I stayed at Nicholls State. Joe left, and I had Ron Brown was my offensive coordinator my senior year, and we happened to have a really good year. And, then I got drafted by the Chiefs after having a great year. We led the nation in touchdown passes, and that was forever ago, and nobody knew how to defend the pass at that time. Then I went to Kansas City, was there 87, 88, was released, went back into coaching, got picked up into Green Bay in 89, 88, got married to Ann, who's been the love of my life. And then we have 3 kids. So studied the game, loved the game. My son's into the game athletically. My claim to fame, funny Harrison, I didn't say that. I was thinking about this before we talked, but when I was 5 years old, I had an accident with my right arm. I fell on a Coke bottle at the UP Bank in downtown Memphis, if you're familiar with it, right? It's the UP Bank. It used to be 50 years ago, the largest building in Memphis. And at that time, there were bottled Cokes out of machines, and my mother was getting her hair done, and I went and got a bottled Coke. I talked to her. I was kind of a hellion as a kid. And I talked her into giving me money to buy a bottled Coke out of the old machine. I pulled the Coke out and I fell, and the bottom of the glass bottle severed my ulnar nerve in my right elbow. So lost a lot of blood, went to the hospital, and I lost feeling in my right arm for about 6 months. And at that time, they thought I was going to lose the use of my right arm, and they sewed the ulnar nerve together. What's interesting is it didn't faze me once I got the feeling back in my hand. It didn't matter. But what I realized, and what's kind of funny, is when you go to the NFL, the combine camps, they measure your hand span, which is from your pinky finger to your thumb, the width of your hand span. And so that's how they determine, obviously, hand size and grip on a football. And I didn't realize that I'm not able to extend my hand like my left hand. So I have a very small hand span. And so I guess to say that is, I'm famous for having the smallest hands in the history of the NFL for a quarterback that was drafted.
No, get out of here.
Yeah, dude. So, and I didn't realize that really made a difference until I started studying. When Matt, my son, now 32 years old, would say, "Dad, how do you throw football?" And the reality was, I really didn't know. It's like, well, heck, you just grab it and throw it, son. And then I'm like, wait a minute. Well, how do you hold it? What are your arm motions? And like Joe taught me that stuff, but I really didn't. I just did what he asked me to do. And what's funny is, now, I'm so much more knowledgeable about it, because when Matt was asking, we had to dig for information, and it really wasn't there. And now with all the information out for athletes, there's so much information out there. You can find out anything about anything, which is great. If you want to try to achieve or try to learn a movement pattern, which is fun about the technology we have now. But we didn't have it then. It was kind of trial and error, try to figure stuff out. And then I just kind of did things the way I did things. And then, you don't know what you don't know. And a lot of athletes, in my opinion, from what I see, it's getting better now, but a lot of them do things, and you ask them what they do, and they really can't tell you exactly what they do. They can tell you what they think they do, but then when you look at video, it kind of is like, wait a minute, this doesn't match up. So I've really seen a difference in coaching, to where, some great athletes may not be the best coaches because they may not know exactly what they're actually doing when they go to teach it. That's just been kind of my experience. Anyway, so I'm still learning, Harrison, and I pick up tips from quarterbacking. Matt's involved, my son's involved in the game, coaching, and so the learning process is ongoing. It's evolving, and there are different ways to do things, but we all move the way we move and the way we're built anyway.
As far as talking about movement and everything like that, we talked about that pretty extensively last call, and how no body is exactly the same. So we talked about in terms of Tiger Woods, because Doug, you're the best golfer I know personally. So your swing, I try to replicate it and I can't. And so I think that's really interesting. And I think most people know that, but I want them to really understand that if you're struggling and you're trying to mimic somebody else, Doug and myself both agree that, yeah, you can take some of the fundamentals, but if you try to make it look exactly like somebody else's, it's more than likely you're going to fail. So, and it'll never be exactly like somebody else's, because the truth is you just don't see anybody with the exact same mechanics, because every single body that people have is different.
Yes.
Yeah.
Completely agree. We're built, we're unique, we're different anatomically. Our femurs are different sizes, our arms, hands are different sizes. Hand span matters in different sports. It actually matters in all sports. So how you grip something, how you hold something, whether it be a Frisbee golf club or football or baseball, the way you attach your body to it matters. And it matters based on your anatomy. Do they hang? How do your hands hang? Do they hang side to side, or Do your palms face backwards? All that stuff matters, and I think. And so what's best for you and your anatomy in your sport and how you move and how you hold something.
So while we're on the subject of athletics, because I want to talk about a lot in this and really pick your brain. But as far as going through the whole process, going into the NFL, getting out and becoming, a high level amateur golfer, I guess you would say. Is that correct?
Well, yeah. Harrison, okay. So you're getting into like high level, and that gets to see in my brain, high level would be, playing on the pro tour. And that's, unfortunately, my brain works like that. It's like, okay, what are your standards? What are you comparing to? I'm a mid scratch, single digit handicap. And I've been there, golf is hard. That's a whole nother deal. I say it is hard. I think it's one of the hardest sports there basically is. And the goal is to get the ball in the hole. I can hit the ball a long way and hit it far and straight and all that, but that game's about getting in the hole. So it's all what you're comparing to. So yeah, I'm a single digit handicap. That's good. It's probably in the top, 90 top 10% of the population. But the really good players, like the pro golfers, that's a whole different level of golf. You're talking about guys that are shooting under par. If to play pro golf, you'd have to, if somebody's going to play pro golf, they'd have to beat everybody within a 75-mile square circular radius of where you are by 3 or 4 strokes. And so that's a whole different level. So,
that's going right into my question. So you've really set it up nicely. So going from football over to golf, yes, and now having the fact that you have some age on you, and you have a lot of experience now. What would you say that if you wish you would have known back then? Like, what have you learned today that you wish you would have known back in the day, whenever you were in the league or before the league or anything like that? What would you want to tell yourself?
I think, I think about that question. Do I have regrets? I don't. You don't know what you don't know when you're going. I know when I was first drafted by the Chiefs, my perception, I didn't really have a realization of what big business was about in the NFL. And I thought that the offense coordinator that recruited me or drafted me, a guy named Homer Smith, he's passed away, God rest his soul, but he was a brilliant man. Graduated from Harvard, went to Princeton, really brilliant. I didn't quite understand his terminology in his offense. I figured it out. I learned, I don't know if I'd do anything different with that. It was just a tough experience in Kansas City because the offense didn't make intellectual sense to me in his terminology. When I went to Green Bay, we ran the same offense that we ran at Nicholls State, which is the same terminology. So I had a really great experience in Green Bay in terms of knowing how to practice, how to perform under pressure, but how to prepare. I think that was a maturation. When you're going into as a quarterback, you really have to understand every play, every movement, every defense, and your focus is really on the defense, not on what your offense is doing. So I think I had a gap my rookie year that was really, the defense was a blur because I was trying to really grasp Homer's offense and the way he communicated. So I would, if I had to go back and do that again, I think I would spend more time really converting his language to my language and understanding. I really felt good. I know for me in sports, it's always like, hey, my thing was always, did I do my best? Did I do the best with what I had at that time? And I look back in Kansas City and say, well, yes, I think I did, but I could have done better. In Green Bay, I was like, man, I killed it. I did the best I could do. I lit it up. I was proud of myself for my preparation, all my everything I worked on in my throwing movements. Yeah, I don't really have any regrets. I think you don't know what you don't know early in life and early in athletics. And I don't know if you could sometimes you have to go through things to really learn them, even though somebody tells you something. I know my Ron Brown, my senior year in college, he told me, he said, Doug, you need to learn to play golf. And I'm like, I hate golf. Why do you want me to learn to play golf, Coach Brown? And he said, Doug, you need to learn to control your emotions. Mm. And I'm like, well, Coach Brown, what's golf going to do for me? What are you talking? So I learned to play golf with him. I didn't have a clue. But it was, that's a game that you really have to calm down, accept errant shots, accept mistakes, accept imperfection. I was driven in my childhood by performance, and I'll say that, winning, I love to win, right? I love to win in anything and compete, but competition, I mean, competition's great, but I think I've evolved to the best I've ever played was when I'm not competing against another person. I'm allowing, talent, God giftedness to happen, getting out of the way. So there's not really a competition versus other people, even though I allow that competition to drive my behavior and focus on a process or a movement pattern that I'm trying to do, or whatever it is, a fundamental, whether it's tie my shoes or whatever, allow that pressure to drive me in that direction versus just an outcome. I think when I get focused on outcomes, it's a lose-lose for me, because then I lose track of what I'm doing in the moment. What do I need to do right now? Whether it's taking a snap in football, not that I'm playing, reading a coverage, in medical sales, gosh, for 20 years, where do I need to be? All that. But in sports, golf would be, do I have the right club? Do I have the right yardage?
Yeah. And so
am I focused on a routine? Yeah, you know what I mean? Process over outcome.
So
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. So I'm curious, how do you do a good job of that? Do you have a particular routine for letting yourself let go of the competition with somebody else and really focusing on just trying to be your best self?
Yes, I think I can. If I'm focused on somebody else or what they're doing and focused on them doing good or bad, it takes me away. So I catch myself, and I don't do it now. It's like now when I play golf, not that I play that much, but it's really just me and myself and the golf course. And I really don't care what other people do. And for my personality is extroverted, so I try to go external and just be fun to play with. And I basically applaud those around me in the proper way. And I don't overdo it, but I go external for me, which helps me stay in my so-called zone and really be true to myself and have a good time, keep it light. And there's time when I get intense and internal and analytical, that's a trap for me that takes away from smooth muscle movement or process and outcome. So I know that about my personality type, and I know that about me. I focus on targets. What's my target, and that's all that matters. I breathe. I think breathing's important when I get anxious or stressed. And I think about when you feel fear or maybe I hit a shot and I'm like, where did that come from in a very tight situation? And I get anxious. Sometimes I fail and it's like, what happened? Golly, and then how do you recover from that? It happens. It's going to happen. So, there's meditation, surrender, and then back into process. What is my process? Okay. What do I know I need to do right now? You make a double bogey on a hole, you get mad. Okay. So I'm going to get mad, but then how do I let go of that and get back into, man, I find a way just to hit a shot somewhere where I can find the ball. Or you throw an interception. It's like, okay, yeah, the first thing is why, what happened. The next thing is focus on the next play. What's the snap count? What's the coverage? What's the protection? What's the pattern? Or whatever sport you're in, it's getting in and out of that. Those things will happen. How do I, my goal is really, and not that I'm there because I like to go real high. The bad thing of that is getting real low. If I can stay in the middle and steady, that's how I can kind of stay in the so-called zone, so to speak, and not let each shot in golf be outcome related, and to, let a shot and try to detach emotion from a good or bad golf shot, which is easy to say and really hard to do, right?
Yeah.
Even in football or any sport, it's like detach emotion from it, and that's that I'm still in process on that. And the days that I'm really good at it, it just happens.
Sure.
And it's like, if I can laugh at mistakes, because I can be one to be really hard on myself, really driver.
It seems like that for you, it's and for everybody, it's very emotional, right? Very emotional, and like your coach Ron Brown said, you need to play golf so you can learn to handle those emotions.
Yes.
Now, what I've found is that if you can come into your golf game or come into a round or whatever you're doing, it doesn't matter. If you can already be in like a great state of mind coming into it, like where emotions are great, feelings are great, like maybe something really good happened that day, then typically you're probably going to be in that zone a lot easier. And so I've found, this is just something that I've done, is I've tried to recreate those feelings before a round or before anything that I want to be really competitive at, so that I am relaxed, so that I am feeling good. So that's what it's all about for, I think, for the top athletes. And what you're talking about is your state management, and how they always say that preparation is key. Like if you're going to be great at anything, you've got to prepare. And so that would be my urge to every single person listening, is prepare your mind before you go out there, instead of trying to get it all worked out once you're out on the course. Because once you're out there, it's like you're basically at the mercy of where your ball is going, if it's on the golf course or would you agree with that?
No, I would agree with that. And I think it's two parts. I think it's having realistic expectations too. Realistic expectations of, I used to hear this all the time when I was playing football. It's like, oh, you play like you practice. And I hated that because I wanted to be a gamer and I wanted to be different in the game. But the reality is, I think we do play like we practice. And then the next thing goes, am I practicing on the right things that are going to help me to be successful when I play? What are the right fundamentals? And am I working on those in the right way? Am I working on my mindset in the right way? What's my mindset when I practice? Where am I with that? So I think they do work together. And I think having proper expectations too, in my opinion. What are my expectations for whatever athletic event that I'm doing right now? I can be in a great zone. I can be in a great mental zone. But if I expect to hit a golf ball 450 yards when I don't have the mechanics or the strength or the flexibility or the equipment to do that, then I'm living in la la land, right? I mean, I've got to understand, can I, throw a frisbee 40 yards and hit a net in the back at 40 yards 10 out of 10 times, or can I do it 2 out of 10 times? Where am I right now in my practice? What are realistic expectations? And with that, if I can hit a net in the back 2 out of 10 times, I can still find a way to win with that. If I manage myself around a course, manage myself around a golf course, or manage myself around a football game, or as a quarterback, if I realize, hey, this is what I'm able to do, I'm going to do it really, really, really well, and manage my expectations around what I'm capable of doing. Does that make sense, Eric?
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you're operating in that particular moment from your strengths. So you use practice to dictate to yourself, like, okay, this is what I'm really great at. This is what I'm not great at. And when it comes to competition time where you have to be your best, really focus on doing your strengths pretty much every single time until you can work on it in practice, raising weaknesses to strengths.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, Yeah, that's great.
Well,
Yeah.
well, you're the psychology major, so that's it. I'm just talking to the guy that's helped me.
Yeah. I think psychology major. Yeah, that's what I graduated in. And we studied rats or whatever, but I think psychology is more. I mean, it's the after part that we all work on. Like how do you be the best person you can be? What does God want of me? How do I see Him? How you know? I want him. I want to see myself like He sees me. And so then we get into everybody has different images. And that's a whole theological debate, but it's like, what is my spiritual program, for that part of it, the mind, body, and soul? You know, am I playing for myself? Can I get out of myself? There's the freedom in that. Doing for others, helping other people, you know, my talents. How am I using my talents with my family, my work? In sport, what you've been given. How do you free that up?
Mm.
And I think it's a spiritual process. It's like, and it's a fun it's a hard it's a fun process, and it's where's the passion? Can I dig into that? Where's my tenacity, my persistence? Do you want to give up? Yeah, we're human beings. How do you? I mean, golf for me is a hobby, but it mirrors life because it's like it's hard to master, and it's just a fun game. So
Well, I have a question.
and
I have a tough question
yes,
for you.
ask
All
me.
right, so you touched on it briefly, and that what you were talking about when you aren't playing well and being able to
Yes,
turn that around. And if I know I probably told you a bit of my story, and I think you know it. Where in high school, I won the state championship. The following year, I went back trying to do it again with my high school team, and I threw the very first ball of the game, perfect, great shot, and it left a 10 pin. I didn't get the result that I was looking for. And that's the case with every sport, right? You can hit they've seen it. You can hit a great golf shot right at the hole and like the perfect line, and it doesn't mean that it's going to still go in. But yet I let that affect me. And not only
yes,
did it affect me, but it affected me bad. Like I went
yeah,
down, lots of people know my story, but I went down a dark path with that, and I had a lot of trouble rebounding. And I'm
yeah.
curious, have you had any times where you felt like you let yourself down or your team down? And how did you respond if that did happen?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, Harrison had multiple occasions where I can remember. I mean, just straight up after I got released from Kansas City, it was like a real dark time for me because I had put my whole life into football, and then it's like, holy cow, I got cut and I didn't perform well, and it was more that I felt like when the coach that drafted me got fired, and they brought in another coach, and I was very naive at the time, but honestly, I didn't really get an opportunity to perform well, but I really took that on after the new offensive coordinator released me, and it just broke my heart. And then I was just like, I was in a, I was depressed. It's like, then holy cow, what do I do now? I'm out of the league, man. It was a dark time for me. Yeah, so it really, I think that's when I really had a lot of doubts and questions about my own faith, my own belief in self, and did some soul searching on that. So it was a dark time, and as a young athlete, young person, if you, I received the majority of my validation from performance. If I performed well, I felt good. If I performed poorly, I felt badly. Even in college, and it was that's a and it I see that in a lot of athletes, and it's something that to be aware of and to manage, and you learn to manage that. But it's a very hard thing. It's all performance based, and so it's like if my who I am is based on what I do and not who I am, and how I perform, it can be a real trap. And yeah, I mean, yeah, it's easy for me to be addicted to winning. It's like, oh gosh, wait a minute, and I don't know, I'm obviously, I feel like I'm better at that now, but it's still kind of an Achilles heel. There's a guy named Gerald Mays, passed away, wrote a book called Addiction Grace that I really, really like. But one of his quotes was, To be addicted is to be human, and to be human is to stand in the need of grace. So it's like, where am I getting my validation? So getting back into the zone. How do I get into the zone? Do I allow something external to get me into the zone? Is a good shot or a good experience, is that what gets me in the zone? Or does that getting into the zone come from internal, that I can get in the zone without something external happening? And I think that's where the spirituality comes in, for me, is getting in that right mindset. Now I can handle the good, the bad, whatever happens. Anyway, that's kind of and I think of it like quadrants. I look at like, and I try to do it daily when I'm aware, but you think about kind of the movements to spirituality. And I look at fear, self-pity, dishonesty, and resentment. That's kind of being, the opposite of fear is trust, the opposite of self-pity is gratitude, the opposite of resentment, gratitude or acceptance, and the opposite of dishonesty is honesty. So I try to see, where am I in that? And so for me, that's a process. So I think that's a big part of getting in the proper mindset. Where am I? And then accepting where I am, and then moving to the good quadrants, the trust, the gratitude, acceptance, gratitude, those things. How do I move in that direction?
Is
no
that
matter
like
what
a
I'm
square?
experiencing?
Is that like a
Well, yeah.
like a big square with like the cross through it or something like that?
Well, I just haven't written down. I have a buddy of mine that was a mentor that it's just 4 steps. You have fear. The opposite of fear is trust. The opposite of self-pity is gratitude. The opposite of resentment is acceptance. The opposite of dishonesty is honesty. So when I find myself in fear, it's like, okay, identify, what am I afraid of? Is it performance? Is it whatever, economic insecurity, whatever it may be? So how do I move myself? Identify that fear. Is it real? Probably not. And then I identify it, then move myself into trust.
How do you do that?
And that's a form of identifying it, verbalizing it with either in writing or with a close teammate that I trust, and then moving into letting it go, and then moving into what is true. What are the facts about what I believe? What are the facts about? And I get to choose that, right? We get to choose. We get to rewire our thinking at every moment in time as humans. We have the freedom to do that. And so, what do I believe to be true? What am I believing? Is it true? Is it not true? What does my faith say? What do I hope for? Where am I going? Where's my target? That's the direction. Where am I aiming? Where am I aiming? Whether in sports and life, where's my aiming point? And so my aiming point, which is in my faith, God, if my aiming point is correct, then it pulls me out of that. And so that's a process too, right? So we're getting into deep stuff there, but
I like
resentment.
that. I like that a lot.
Yeah. So
it reminds me of the ladder on the building. Have you heard of that analogy?
No, I haven't. Tell me.
Well,
I'm up. Go ahead.
Well, it's the ladder on the building, as in like whenever you take your goal or whatever it is, or because everyone's always climbing a ladder, right? Like you're trying to go up, up and up. And if you have your ladder up against the wrong building, aka the wrong goal or the wrong place, you're going to get to the top and you're going to be like, well, dang, I'm in the wrong place. So like, that's why they always say, take your time, figure out where you want to go, get very crystal clear on it so that you can take your ladder, which is the steps that you need to get to where you want to go, and you can get those all down and start working your way there. So that's always been something that I've heard is the ladder analogy. And it sounds pretty much exactly like what you're talking about, is like, where are you aiming? Where are you going?
Yes.
And I think that's the problem with most people out there that are struggling with like bad, like negative feelings, negative thoughts that are feeling unfulfilled, it's because there's no direction. It's just kind of
Yes.
wandering around like aimlessly, and there's no, and when you don't have like a goal, or you're not like, necessarily like going after something, you don't have that sense of appreciation for reaching different milestones. You don't have the
Yes.
gratitude of, the people that you get to come across that are trying to go in that same direction as well. So,
Yeah. I think having a core group of people too that are in your boat and supporting you is important, that you can be honest with too about where you're going, what your goals are, what are your goals, where are you headed, what's getting in the way. Encouragement. I remember I told you that about Coach Brown. I'll never forget that. He told me he he was our offense coordinator my senior year, and he said, and I would wait on 3rd and long and then throw a completion, and he'd be in the press box, and I'd get on the headset, and he'd say, "Doug, you're going to kill me." I said, "Coach Brown, what are you talking about?" He said, "Son," he said, "Look," he said, "you're crazy, Doug." He said, "Now, when you're on that bridge and you're getting ready to jump, call me. I'll either come and hold your hand and jump with you, or I'll talk you out of it." So people like that, it's important for, I think, all men and women to have some people in your life. Those guys, coaches, were like, they became my father figures, and it's important to seek people out like that you can trust. And I hope if guys have fathers, they're good fathers. That's great. Many of us did not, but there are men in the world that want to encourage and support you. And I believe that. And I've found that and continue to find people like that are on their journey, but will help. And you have to be selective and smart, and make sure that those folks, over time you learn to trust, and, they're part of your tribe, so to speak, or your team, and our family, community, all that. So, that's important I think, for us to be the best we can be. I don't think we can do it in a silo, where I'm out on my own and figure stuff out. I think the mind is too tricky, in my opinion. And so I need, I mean, that's the whole deal about marriage and love and all that. It's like hearing the hard stuff from I've got a Cajun wife I'm lucky and blessed, because she tells me the truth. Sometimes I don't want to hear it, but I do hear it because I trust her, and sometimes I don't like it, but it's somebody seeing your blind side. We all need that. And I would say, I know for me, it's important to lean in things that I don't like about myself. And that's the way we change. And slowly, like water over, a rock over a long period of time, it smooths out. You kind of lean in where you need to lean in. So, and do things that are scary, nobody likes change but a wet baby, right? But that's the real part of the rubber meeting the road in spirituality is trust. It's like, okay, I'm going to lean in,
well,
and do this.
What have you,
right?
I could not agree more with that. As far as like leaning into discomfort, I'm doing about the 75 hard program I'm doing right now. My back is like yelling at me right now, but I'm leaning in.
I applaud you, man.
Well, I'm almost there. I had a dream last night that I failed the challenge because I had a beer. And I did. I woke up and I was like, "Oh, thank God, I didn't fail."
Yeah.
Like I really had that dream. But I wanted to ask you, can you give me an example for you of like something that you've leaned in on, like as of recently, that's like uncomfortable or a challenge for you when you were talking about that?
I'll just have one today. Just having to send emails to a group of people that aren't doing a very good job. And really, it's not my favorite thing to do, is to document certain things in my business. And I perceive it as a waste of time when somebody hasn't done their job. So it's like, I really had to calm down because I was very angry, and then write the emails nicely, and not be too angry about it. So that's just something little today. And so, yeah, it forced me to really meditate and say, okay, calm down, just relax, because it's kind of the stuff that gets in the way of what you're aiming at. It's kind of these piles, I call them piles of dung, right? And I'm aiming at a certain thing, but these piles of dung get in the way. And so if I focus on the dung too much, I get really angry. So I've got to really raise my game and look beyond it, breathe, and be done with it and keep going. Yeah, I mean, that's, I mean, that's just a simple thing without getting too vulnerable over the podcast. But it's like, you know,
that makes sense. I think a lot of people have to do that kind of stuff. So
dude, it's like, and then hold the tongue, and then it's like, you know, I need places to vent, you know, and athletics, you know, for me, a hobby of golf or whatever, chainsaw, or just doing something physical, that is a good outlet for our energy, and it energizes us, you know, and especially for guys. I mean, I know that's something I want to get back into, is really hardcore exercise, and I haven't done that, but you know, I'm still pretty active and I'm able to do things, but as we age, you know, you lose strength, flexibility, speed, all that over time. Anyway, I don't know if I answered your question.
No, you did. You hit it.
Yeah.
And so I guess I'm curious right now, what's the most exciting thing that you're working on right now?
Most exciting thing I'm working on in terms of, well, I tell you what, a couple of things. Like Matt's down there coaching ball down in Texas, and I'm still learning about football. It's exciting. I mean, I'm still learning about quarterback movements, working with one of his kids. And Don, he's a really good little quarterback, and learning from Matt, just kind of what they're doing with this offense, and learning more football. I've enjoyed that. That's kind of never ending. I'm enjoying kind of some new stuff just with kind of balance and foot movement in golf, and then understanding more of my body type, and then my balance with my feet. And the swing, and even putting, kind of knowing where I'm at. So that's kind of the new thing, is strengthening my feet. And so I'm kind of working on dance moves, of all things, for my balance, and which is really important. And it's and I go back to that we talked about the other day. Ron Brown told me that 40 years ago. Doug, you when you first coached me, he's like, man, you're so stiff, son, and white. You need to really you learn how to dance. And I didn't know what he was talking about. Like, Coach Brown, what are you talking about? And you know, he said, you need to learn how to dance, man. And I'm like, I didn't get it. I worked on my feet got better, but now it comes back. He was brilliant in his coaching, because that's some of the latest stuff now, is really working on foot movement and your proprioception, where your body is in space. How do you control your body? And for years in golf, I didn't even think about my feet, and they're really important. They're important in throwing a ball. You know, I always thought about that, but I didn't think it was that important in the golf swing. And it's important in every sport. And so I'm kind of watching. I'm enjoying watching players when I watch football, when I watch golfers, and I watch how they move. You know, I think the big point for me is to watch what players do, not what they say they do. So really watching what different athletes do and how they do it based on their body type. So, and then seeing if I can do something similar based on my body type. Not that I want to be like them, but I sure want to move the best I can move with what I've got. So anyway, I get excited with Matt's football thing. And it's really more about the relationships for me, the relationships with the men, because football for me was more about the relationships with men, the guys, accomplishing a goal as a team, helping people improve, helping them overcome. You can see kids, young men, even at every level, the ones that are shame-based. You know, it breaks my heart I think you can be raised out of that in the right environment and overcome that. And I think there's many coaches now that do a good job with that. And I know, I mean, I'm a Tennessee fan, but I've become a Nick Saban fan because I see he comes across, real rough and gruff, but he cares about those kids and he trains them in great ways to develop not only as football players, but as men. And Heupel's doing that now too. And the really good coaches are doing it. But I love to see that, and it breaks my heart when I see kids not perform that have all uber talent. I think that's what bothers me when I'm like, gosh, I need to be helping this guy. I look at the kid, the quarterback from the University of Florida. He's got more physical talent than probably anybody out there, and it breaks my heart when I see, kind of what's happening to him, because I can relate, right? I mean, I can relate. I've been on a field where nothing went right, and you're thinking, oh, it's all my fault, and it's really not. I mean, football is, you got 22 guys on a field. It's not golf, and you have to have so many things happen in the right way to be successful as a quarterback. And if you don't understand that or know that as a quarterback, you can take all that on inappropriately, which could be a downfall and send a kid into a spiral.
Yeah.
Anyway, I went on a tangent.
No, you didn't. No, it's great stuff. And I'm curious, what are your thoughts around what makes one coach like a Nick Saban so successful and able to help his players reach their true potential, or like the top level, versus maybe another coach? Have you found any principles or anything like that?
I think he demands excellence, and then he sits players down and he's honest with them. He's honest with his players. So when he brings players in, he's completely honest and he assesses their talents, and he tells them straight up, if you do X, Y, and Z this way in this manner, and you follow this process in getting better, you have the talent to make gazillions in the National Football League and be the best person you can be. If you do these things, if you show up on time, if you do X, Y, and Z, and he knows what to teach in developing athletes and their movement patterns, their steps, etc. Now, I mean, and he will tell you that obviously he wasn't good enough to play at Alabama, and he's real honest with himself, which is admirable. But he's honest with those kids, and he gives them a roadmap for success. I believe that. He doesn't just yell and scream, he teaches. So you see him on the sidelines yelling and screaming, and everybody gets all fired up because Saban never loses and they don't like him. And I've been in that camp, but those kids are trained, highly trained, day in and day out, of what to do and how to do it. So I think really good coaches know what to teach and how to teach it. And so I think that's why kids want to go to the Alabamas, and now they're going to want to go to Tennessee because of what Heupel's done, because he knows what to teach, and he's got a group of coaches that are teaching really solid fundamentals. And when you do that, it's like going to the New England Patriots, not that they're doing well right now. But I think players know that, hey, if I go to this organization, there's a different standard. And if I do what I'm asked to do, then I'm going to be successful, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm going to be pushed, maybe in ways I don't want to be pushed, but need to be pushed to develop the talent I have. And if I surrender to that process, it might suck for a while because I'm going to hate it and it's going to be painful. But if I go through the pain and I work on my deficiencies, then I will be better. It reminds me, and I don't know Peyton Manning. I met him one time. They had the Nicholls State, the quarterback camp down there at Nicholls State, believe it or not, the Manning camp, passing academy. And I asked him, one time we had dinner, and I asked his coach, Coach Moore, at that time, many years ago, I said, what makes Peyton great? And he said, Doug, he works on the things that he's not great at. And Peyton sat down and heard that, and Peyton said, it's really embarrassing to work on the things that I'm not good at. And at that time, it was working on faking to the left, because Peyton faked to the right, and you work on your deficiencies so that he worked on his weaknesses so defensive coordinators couldn't target his weaknesses. So I thought that was fast. I was like, wow, yeah, I'm going to work on my strengths, but also I'm going to work on some weaknesses too. I'm going to work on those things, right? Because in football, as a quarterback, as a pitcher in baseball, these coordinators now, the analytics behind it, they know Doug Hudson throws the deep route good both sides, but maybe he throws the out route bad to the left. So we're going to make him throw that out route in this game. They will direct it. So you'll see quarterbacks do really well for a couple series, right? And then the third series, they come out and like, what happened to this Bailey Zappi kid? He threw 2 touchdown passes. He's a rookie. He's all this great quarterback in New England. Man, he just threw a pick. What happened? Well, coordinators take away, it's like a baseball pitcher. They know with the analytics now what you do well and what you don't do well. So you've got to make all the throws in the league. And if you don't work on those things, they're going to make you throw those throws. And if you can't make the throws, then you won't be there long. That's why NFL stands for not for long, right? Anyway, I went off on another tangent.
No, you did. Those tangents are exactly what we're looking for. I think that people love that. The Peyton Manning stuff, gold. I love that. Just to piggyback off of that, I think that's why I get so scared whenever we're playing like a Kentucky and their backup quarterback when I'm watching Tennessee and their backup quarterback comes in, I'm getting scared because I'm like, oh man, our defense is not prepared for that at all. So, that brings back bad memories for me. Like when the team doesn't have time to prepare for the backup that has a completely different game plan, like legs, where you now all of a sudden you're trying to install a spy or trying to do that type of stuff mid game and didn't prep, and I think that gets back into what we talked about. Preparation's key.
Yeah. And and those guys, you have to prepare for anything. Like when Alabama played Tennessee, it's like, is Bryce Young going to play? Well, maybe not. He's hurt. Maybe he's got a torn labrum. Maybe he's going to be out for surgery. Maybe the backup's going to play, who's a runner, or maybe even the third team quarterback is going to play. Who knows? So, I don't know the Tennessee staff, but they had to prepare for everything, right? So if I was a defensive coordinator, I'd have been thinking, man, we got to stop the run. You got to stop the run. Let's load the box and stop the run. Well, of course, you got to stop with Bryce Young. You got to stop both. He's a freak. He's one of the best players in the league. Anyway, those guys have a hard job, and what does a team do well, right? If I'm looking at an offense, I'm going to stop what they do best first. You can't stop everything, but you can stop what they do best. Focus on what they do best. Stop that. Make them do what they do least best, but don't give them the stuff they're really good at. In Tennessee, hey, look, Tennessee spreads the field out. They throw the ball deep. I love what they do. Their offense is really simple, but they execute. The mother, what? Repetition's the mother of execution, right? They execute. And what Tennessee does is they attack the whole field. And when you attack the whole field, it makes it hard for coordinators because they have to defend the whole field. And when you have to defend the whole field, it's hard. You can't really do it. So you have to pick what you're going to defend as a coordinator versus Tennessee. And I'm just going to tell you, in my opinion, the only way to stop Tennessee is to get to the quarterback. And the reason why Tennessee beat Alabama, in my opinion, is they blocked Alabama's front four. And they controlled the line of scrimmage. And if our boy Hooker has time to throw, it's over with the speed outside, because you can be the best defensive back in the world. And if you give a 58-year-old guy time to throw and you don't hit me, I can hit some of those guys, believe it or not, even at 58. I'm not saying it's easy, but as long as you don't, Tom Brady, you don't hit Tom Brady, man, it's over. They lost last night. He got hit. Guys were off kilter. If you don't hit a quarterback, your defensive backs can't cover, period. I don't care if you're 5-star, 10-star, or whatever star system they're using. You give a quarterback 3 seconds, 3.5 seconds, they're going to lose, my opinion. But I think it to be true. You got to hit a quarterback and put him on his back. to stop that stuff. And if Tennessee pass protects and they run the ball, they're going to be fine. But Kentucky is a good football team, right?
Yeah.
So it'll be a good game.
Yep.
But, you know, I'm hoping that Tennessee lights them up.
Let's go.
You know?
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
That's what I'm hoping. So
yeah,
I wanted to ask you this. You have got to be one of the most positive people I've ever met. I'm serious. Every single time I've ever talked to you, I've ever seen you out or anything like that, you've always been like uplifting and you've helped me so much as far as like helping me with my products and different things like that, and just always been a heart of service. I'm just curious, where do you think that came from?
I think it's part of who I am, the way I was created, part of my personality, extroverted. I like people. You know, I like to win. I like other people to win. I like to see people succeed. I think I love to see people grow. I like connection to people. I think that's kind of way I was created to be. I'm grateful when I went to Nicholls, that really flourished. When I really had an experience with some men that kind of raised me, and I still stay in touch with them. That's just who I am. Yeah. So, I mean, my goal in life was just to, you know, be a dad and kind of be not a better dad than I had, but a different dad. So that's been kind of a life goal. And I'm doing that. I'm still working on that. I think when I get myself out of the way, I like energy. I like positivity. I like to have fun. Like to win, and what winning in terms of not beating somebody down, but just it's fun, right? I mean, it's fun. Life is good, you know.
Yeah.
I hate cancer, you know. I hate disease, disease, right? Any kind of disease with self, physical disease, right? It's like, you know, then you got to kind of embrace that stuff too and suffer. I hate suffering. Don't want to do it. Don't like it. Just like any other human. You know, I like music. You know, and it's just like, man, everybody, I want to feel good. You know, how do I feel good? What do I need to do? You know, and just being honest, it's like, and some days I don't. It's like, how do I get through this? It's like going to practice. I don't want to go to practice. Nobody wants to go to practice. But then, okay, I'm at practice. How do I enjoy this? You know, okay. What am I working on? I got to go to work. I don't want to do this. I don't want to send this email. It's like, man, it's like, you know, I got to be honest about it and then move through it. Nobody wants to hear complaining, right? Who wants to hear complaints?
Yeah.
Nobody.
Nobody.
Who really cares? Nobody cares.
I
mean, hey, okay.
Well, it's
really,
hilarious you say that. You know why?
Nobody gives a dang, man. I mean.
No,
really?
It's so funny you say that because just yesterday, you know my sister, you know Katie. I was just talking to her. I had her on the podcast, and she was talking about like her goals, and she's like, "No one really cares about my goals except for me." And then she talked about like when she's in the middle of like a marathon, she's like, "I'll always go to like a really dark place in my mind, and then I have to like figure out how to get out of that dark place." And so you're basically saying the exact same thing. And I find that so amazing because I think that for me and everybody else out there, I think if we can do a really good job of priming ourselves, I call it priming your brain to be able to respond differently. Like, right. So I guess by priming, I also mean training too, because everything is all about like, you're reacting, right? Like we're always
Yeah.
constantly reacting or trying to be proactive. And if we can do a great job of setting our minds up properly to where we train ourselves, even if something bad happens, or even if we do have a negative thought,
Yes.
the response to that is a positive thought. Then it's like, boom, now I felt it for 1 second, but now it's gone. And now
Yes.
and that's how you create your, the right mindset so that you can have a great life, in my opinion, is by really focusing on your thoughts, what those thoughts are. Because if your thoughts are in the gutter, typically you're going to come up with 1,000 reasons of why those thoughts make sense, why your life is terrible, versus if you say, man, I've got an incredible life. Even just saying it, and you might not feel it always,
Yes.
but even saying it, then you're biased, like to yourself. You're like, you know what? Do have a great life. Like I have a great life because, I got a home, roof over my head. I've got, my life. I got breath. You start coming up with you come up with a million reasons why that's true.
So you're getting into gratitude.
Yeah.
So I'm going from self-pity to gratitude. Poor me to, wait a minute, I'm healthy. Thank God, right? I'm healthy. I feel good today. I'm choosing. I've got a roof over my head. Man, I've got food. I'm grateful to be married for 36 plus years still by the grace of God. I've got 3 wonderful children. I mean, holy cow.
Yeah.
I've got so do I have this list that I'm focused on that can cognitively take me out, right? You're putting your behind in the chair now. Now you're going to practice.
Yeah.
You're going to that's going to practice.
From one thought.
It's like
one thought created all of those like positive reinforcing thoughts behind it by just saying, I have a great life. Like that one thought created all of the rest. And heck, I ended up at your little, your matrix just by that one thought.
Right. So it's like, but see the bigger part of that is just being aware, Harrison, aware of what's going on inside. You're being aware. And if I'm aware of what's going on inside, then I can direct it. It's like, wait a minute, I'm down and out. Maybe I'm numbed out. Oh gosh, why I'm numbed out for an hour. Man, I'm on social media for an hour. I'm numbed out. What's going on inside of me? Whoop, let's break this. Let's break that cycle. And maybe I need to move. Let's just move. Let's go for a walk. Let's go exercise. Let's drink some water. Let's just change my behavior, right?
Motion creates new emotions.
You can change your thoughts. I can change my behaviors. Yes. And so, okay, I can accept that. I'm feeling down, but okay, let's shake. Let's change. Let's move. Not deny it, right? If something traumatic happens, you don't deny it. It's like, okay, it's there. I feel bad. Dog died. Man, I'm bummed out. It broke my heart. Okay, I'm grieving it. That's why I'm feeling this. My dog died. I love my dog, right? So, okay, where do I need to go? I'll talk to a friend. What do I need to do? I need to move. How do I take care of myself in this? This pain won't last forever. I don't medicate the pain. How do I medicate the pain? Well, I can do it in a healthy way, right? I can exercise. I can have a mantra. I can have a scripture verse. What do I believe in? What am I aiming at? I can aim at something different. Yeah. So I think for me, that's daily. It's a daily process, right? And so I think too, that the conversations, the tough conversations with people, I need to have a tough conversation with people. It's like, okay, how do I prepare for this? What do I need to say? Am I avoiding that conversation? Do I check out in a relationship? Do I need to lean in a relationship on a tough topic that I don't want to talk about? Man, it's like, one of the things that was cool to happen to me with Ann and I was like, years ago, 20 years ago, I got downsized, and it's like, shit, I couldn't sleep. It's like, what am I going to do? Fear kicks in. So I just get up at 4 a.m. and I started having coffee. Well, that started a pattern. Started having coffee every morning with my wife, and we'd talk. And it's like, that became a way to kind of meditate. So it's like, that became a pattern, a good pattern when I couldn't sleep. So now you know how important sleep is for our brains, but good things can come out of that. But I've got to make I've got to allow myself to make some other decisions, to change my thinking, to do some cognitive, have friends pull us out of things, right? Talk to people, don't isolate, connect. Kind of like what we're doing. Our conversations are that way.
Yeah, definitely.
You
So
know,
where are you headed right now? What are you most excited that you're working on right now?
well, part of me, I like, I'd like to be, I don't play much golf, and so in my crazy brain, when I do play, I want to be, a plus handicap, meaning shoot par or below every time. And so, yeah, so I'm kind of working on that in my mind's eye. It's kind of a hobby. Like, how do you do that? There's different aspects of the game. So now I'm working on my feet and the short game. So um, I'm thinking about it, kind of working on it, just movement patterns, putting. Um, and that's not even at the golf course. I don't even, because I don't play that much. I may play once or twice a month. Um, so yeah, that's kind of what I'm excited about. Kind of, I've been stuck at a certain handicap for 4 years. I broke par once in the last month, but uh, that was. But what didn't maintain that? I think I was about I shot, I don't know, 71, and then shot like an 83. It's like, gosh, there's such a wide range of so-called consistency. But I would like to get to where, and I know the part of the game. I believe I have a part of the game that is causing that. But I'm going to probably hire a coach that I've been looking at for a while. So I'm excited about that. I'm going to wait probably in December to do that and connect with a certain person that I'm really intrigued by that I've found in Atlanta. So I'm excited about that.
I'm hiring a coach
Yeah.
too,
And
by the way.
are you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
the local pro carry.
Good.
Yeah, yeah. I'm using him for mine.
And I'll give you some unsolicited advice. Just do whatever he says do and don't look at anything else
Okay.
because there's so much information out there. They'll say, you know, put your sock on this way, and somebody else will say, no, put your left sock on first. And no, and one guy will say, put your black sock and white sock together. And just listen to one person because it can be, there's a million different ways to swing and move. But I would recommend whatever he tells you to do one thing at a time, accomplish one small thing at a time. And that's it. And then once you no more than two things, my opinion, because if I said, oh, Harrison, you got to work on these 6 things, you're going to accomplish zero. One thing,
Yeah.
if it's standing a different way, spend a month working. I mean, it's a lifelong game. And if you expect immediate, it's easy to get excited and say, oh, I'm going to go get this lesson. And, next week I'm going to be great. Well, it doesn't work that way. It can. Miracles do happen, but I would be careful and I would be slow progress, steady progress.
Don't limit me now, Doug.
No, I'm not, bro. But I mean,
I'm just messing with you. I know
yeah, I would say
it is a process.
No, dude, the goal is progress, not perfection. And that's a trap for me. It's like now, and I have really, I mean, for my age and I mean, I have really progressed in terms of speed and hitting the ball and all that. But the goal of the game, that's all sexy when you're young, right? Everybody just wants to hit a mile. Okay, I want to hit it 300 yards.
Me.
Okay, woo woo.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to hit it 300 yards. Okay, yeah, that's great. And that's cool. I get it, and I can do that. But it's like the goal really is to get the ball in the hole. And so now if I had to go back and do golf all again, I would have just worked on putting and chipping, and because it's boring. I thought, well, who wants to do this? Putting and chipping, and that's getting the ball. That's really the goal of the game. And so all the guys on the tour can hit the ball a mile. Not all of them can putt and chip. Usually it's the guys that the short game wins. The guys that get the ball in the hole and they score. And so you can have guys that have ugly golf swings, and not many of them do anymore. But I mean, they just beat it around and get it in the hole and beat you by 10 strokes. And it's like, how did that happen? This guy can't play,
Yeah.
you know, but that's golf.
Ned's that way. He can just putt and chip.
Dude, he gets it in the hole, and he had a hole in one today. He called me.
Stop
so I was
it.
proud of him.
Get out.
I know he did. I was proud of him. Super proud of Ned. Go Ned. Ned White. Hole in one.
Wow. Yeah. Good for him.
I was proud of him.
Well, yeah, man. Well, Doug, this has been amazing. I'm so thankful. Do you have any if there's anything else that you wanted to add before we head out, this is your chance right now. Anything you want to say to people that might add value to them?
Yeah, aim high. Somebody you can trust, a teammate, a coach that you can trust. Develop a relationship over a long period of time. Write down really what you want to do. And that's important to be thinking about that in relationships and in your athletics. And be honest. Be honest where you are. And that's a starting point. And yeah. I mean, aim high, man.
That's huge. Shoot for the moon, or shoot for the stars. Shoot for the moon. Land among the stars. I almost messed that up. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, well, yeah, why not?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. But I've got to get somebody to take a look at me. I've got to get somebody to have some eyes on me in athletics and film. That's important. You know, what am I? Feel and real are not the same, you know, in any sport. What am I actually doing? You know, if you're doing the same thing over and over and you're not getting any better, man, get some help.
Yeah.
Get some help.
That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, dog.
Well, you've inspired me. I'm going for it. And I appreciate you so much.
You too, Harrison. Enjoyed it, bro.
Thank you, man. Well, let me know if you need anything, and I'll talk to you soon.
Zadia.
Let's go, baby. Have a good one, Doug.
You too, bro. Take care.
All right, later.
Bye.